What's up, world? Welcome to another episode of the Mommyana podcast with Mommyana Elia. And I'm also joined with some of my lovely friends once again from the exclusive 5 a.m. squad. You guys probably remember them. Woo. Thanks for coming in again. Sorry, y'all. We're muted. We were having I was having major technical difficulties before this. So we're going to stay on mute until it's time to talk, okay? But I also have my friend Brianna joining us today, as well as my cousin Demiko. You guys probably remember Demiko from a couple of previous episodes. Thank you guys for joining us again. Happy to have y'all here. Super excited for this topic tonight. I think it'll be real fun and it'll be super relatable to a lot of people out there. But let's go ahead and start off with a brief introduction. If you could just say your name, what you do for work. You ain't got to say where you work at, just your job title's cool. And then the best thing that happened to you this weekend. So again, my name is Elia and I am a grant manager. And I would say the best thing that happened to me this weekend is I got a massage today. I try to get a massage once a month. You know, self-care, you got to pour into yourself. And it was just great. I see this girl named Jahala Walker. So shout out to you, girl. Should be keeping this body feeling right. But yeah, that was the best thing that happened to me today. What about you, Brianna?
Hi, yes, I dropped my pen. My name is Bree. I am actually a floral designer. And one of the best things that happened to me this weekend was going on a hike or a mini hike with my family. It's a little spot in Lone Tree that we always go to. So that was really nice.
Oh, nice. Yes, Whitney's trying to bring somebody to that spot. That's cool, though. What about you, Dedra?
Hello. Dedra Prester. I work in human resources, which is always fun. Best thing that happened to me this week was I went out on a Thursday night, a school night even, and went to an R&B night at this place on Broadway, and it was packed with us. Music was fire. They were serving food. There was wings on point. And it was just a really fun, unexpected turn up. So I would recommend doing it on Thursday nights if I were you.
Nice. Where was that at?
I think it's called Sneak Easy. It's 1134 Broadway. I mean, I've never been there before. I didn't even know it was there, but I'm not gonna lie, it was packed. It was jumping start to finish, and I left at 1, and there were still people coming in. I was like, wow. So,
all right, going up on a Thursday. Cool. All right, what about? Go ahead, Demiko.
I'm Demiko Cherry. I think I'm the only one on here that's not in Denver, but I am from Denver. Shout out to the Thunderbolts, Manuel. I live in Jacksonville, Florida, and I am in diversity and inclusion.
Okay, what's the best thing that happened to you this weekend?
Oh, the best thing that happened to me pretty much every weekend is my grandson comes and I drive him crazy and I get him real tired and juiced up on love and spoiling, and then I send him home to be a terror at home, and it just brings me joy.
Nice. She's a little grandma. She's a cute grandma.
Mm-hmm.
What about you, Shaquae?
Hello, my name is Shaquae, and I'm a life coach and a professional crafter. And the best thing that happened to me was also a hike, like Bree. I went on a hike, and that was beautiful. It was a beautiful experience. I really enjoyed that.
Nice. Go ahead, Whitney.
Nice. My name is Whitney. I'm a program manager. And I would say the best thing that happened to me this weekend was we took our daughter to a haunted house that was like kid friendly. So she's only 4. So, you know, we didn't take her to anything crazy, but it's like a lights on haunted house, more kind of like a Universal Studios type of tour. It's called Rinky Brothers, I think, out in Littleton, and it's been around for like 26 years. But it was really cool because she's really interested in Halloween for some reason. So, you know, being able to lightly let her see what that world is like, I guess, was pretty cool.
Nice. Cool. It sounds like everyone had a pretty good weekend. So that's what's up. But so, okay, let's dive into our topic. So today's topic is being Black in predominantly white spaces. So we all live in Colorado, or like Demiko said, she was born in Colorado, which has always been a predominantly white state. However, I'd say like over the last decade to 15 years, like things have changed pretty significantly here. I think a lot of it is probably due to the legalization of marijuana. I'm sure there's a lot of other contributing factors that have like, intrigued a lot of people to move here. But today we're going to deep dive into our struggles as Black women as we strive to thrive in predominantly white spaces. So let's get into it. My first question today is if everyone could kind of just give like an overview of what their childhood was like in terms of their exposure to other ethnicities. And I'll let you go first, please.
So I would say I had a pretty consistent exposure to other ethnicities just growing up in Aurora. So went to one of the most diverse middle schools at the time, noted in the country, the Prairie. I think I remember them priding themselves on there were like over 50 different languages spoken from the student population. So there was a variety of diverse students. And I think that helped me sort of have like this interest in having a global perspective. And I think that helped me to like want to travel more and see other parts of the world and just get familiar with other cultures while also like respecting different cultures and ideas. And then also learning how there's in culture and identity, how sometimes there can be a lot of cross similarities.
Awesome. Nice. I'll go next. So I grew up in the Park Hill neighborhood, which was a predominantly Black neighborhood. There's like 27 houses on my whole entire block. Growing up, I'd say like 25 of those households were all Black. So I could literally go like days, weeks, a month if I really wanted to, if I stayed in my neighborhood without seeing white people at all. All my recreation centers where a lot of the kids spent time in were like Black and Hispanic kids. The same for my elementary and middle school. I went to Smiley. There was maybe 5 white kids in the whole school. The rest was Black and Hispanic. Not the same for my high school. Actually, I went to East High School, which was pretty diverse on the outside looking in. But then when you got inside, it's actually really segregated. So like from the moment you walk in, I remember waiting in the front lobby before the bell rings and it's time for everyone to go to class. Like all the Black kids are over here and all the white kids are over here. The Mexicans are like kind of in the middle. And then even within the classrooms, like if you were not taking an accelerated class or an AP class, then you were with the Black kids. Even to like sporting games or like homecoming dances and stuff, all the Black people are over here, all the white people are over here. So like looking at the numbers statistically, it was diverse. But when you actually get into the school and the classrooms, it was all Black people. So for me, like I'm just used to being around mostly Black people. My family is also extremely, extremely pro-Black. Like you're not going to see like very many, if any, interracial marriages. I think there's one, actually. One of my cousins, James, is married to an Italian woman. But outside of that, like, I don't know, it's been something that's been promoted in my family, like Black love, like the empowerment of Black women and Black people in general. My grandma was from the South, from Mississippi, kind of came here during, the Great Migration in search of a better life to build for her and her 8 children. And everyone has just been like super pro-Black since then. My grandma built a house for us here over in Park Hill that I still live in to this day. And yeah, that's just how it's kind of been. I'll let you go next, Dedra.
Yeah, so I grew up in Meadville, Pennsylvania. If you've never heard of it, it's because it's so very small. And it was, I don't know, when I think about it, I definitely had a pro-Black childhood, meaning went to Black church, hung around with Black kids. The way our town was kind of set up, there were projects. But it was intermingled poor. It was poor versus rich versus Black versus white. So if you were a poor kid, you went to this elementary school that I went to, second district. And then there were kind of schools by levels. So if you were middle class, you went to East End or Neeson Hill. And all the rich kids went to this school called West End. There were 0 Black kids in that school. And when I was in 4th grade, my mom tried to send me to that school to kind of show them that there are smart Black people. I fought it because I was just a little Black kid and all that. I just want to hang out with my friends. I didn't want to go be the cause. But as I very much like what you said, Elia, when I got into junior high and senior high, I was in the accelerated classes, which were primarily white people. And I was still going to Black church, but I was in a diverse, I was with white people, honestly, as much, if not more than Black people. My mom still had us doing things with the Black community, promoting the Black community, celebrating Kwanzaa, all the things to keep us in the culture. But the majority of my life and my week was with white people. And then I went to college at a school that the graduating class of my graduating class was me and one other mixed race dude. We're the only Black people that graduated in a class of 300. Again, the opposite of your family, Aaliyah. Interracial marriage was all we had. My mom and her sister married Black men. All my uncles married white women. For me, my brother, and my sister, my brother married a white woman. My sister married a Jewish man. I was married to a white woman and primarily have dated white women. So it was almost interracial dating is kind of the norm in our family versus it not being the norm. Yeah, all my cousins are mixed. I would say there was one Thanksgiving that we were there and we realized that there were only 3 primarily Black people. Everybody else was mixed race out of the 15 people that were in this house. And the number of white people that were there were more than any other race represented. It was insane to think about how, I don't want to use the term diluted, but diluted the Brown family genes had gotten in with mixed race and stuff. So interesting.
Nice. You got a melting pot family over there. That's cool. Go ahead, Demiko. What about you?
Well, I grew up in the same house you grew up in, on the same street in the same house, and it was even Blacker then. Then you remember, it was really Black. Like, I had a culture shock when I moved to Portland, Oregon. It took me a year to make any friends because I was not used to that many white people in my entire life. My mother was into Swahili and wearing dashikis and Power to the People. She wanted to be a Black Panther. I think my dad was into that stuff. Everybody's name was some African name. They were always trying to find out exotic names back then for the Black kids, and we were going to Power to the People all the way up. It was a very interesting time, and it was during the time when that transition happened, where there was not as much of a stigma for interracial marriages, but there still wasn't a whole bunch of them. Now, you mentioned James and his wife, but you forgot your other cousin, my daughter, her husband. He's Italian. Mm-hmm. So, but to Leah's point, we grew up very, very pro-Black without how do I say this? A real understanding how colorism played a role in our pro-Blackness. And that was where the toxic nature of our pro-Blackness lied. So deconstructing that colorism is still a process, an ongoing process, I would say. So that was my childhood. I went to the Manual East Complex. So I did, back then they used to let you do classes at Manual and East. So you could take a couple. I don't know if they still do that in Denver, but I basically was an angel and a thunderbolt at the same time. Denver was a different place. It was a magical place growing up, because being a Black kid during that time period, and not, racism exists. You heard about it on TV. It was like that. And then I grew up, graduated from college, graduated from high school, and came out to Portland, Oregon, where I got an academic scholarship to an all-white school. It was so white that I was the mascot. Literally, they had my face plastered all over the website so that they could attract diversity. I was the token. And that's how I went to college. I got a free ride scholarship, not a completely free ride, but most of it was free because I was a Black girl. And they didn't have anybody Black except for the basketball team. So I got to be the representative. You're welcome. So I'm part of Gen X. I think I got a mixture of millennials and Z. Again, you're welcome. We took all the heat for y'all. But we also gave you guys a sense of some of the stuff the boomers taught us. Bullshit. So we did that for y'all too. You're welcome again. But Blackness was always at the center of what I was. It was interesting when I moved to Oregon as a teenager, because I was 18 when you go to college, right? And it was just really interesting how white people had never seen the spectrum of Negro. They only knew that Black people were this color or that color. So here comes my freckle face, curly hair, but with two Black parents, and they didn't know what to make of me. I tried multiple ways to describe what I was because they kept asking me, which I was not accustomed to that in Colorado, because, well, let's look at this picture we're already looking at. We got a spectrum of women on here, different shades, just beauty, just personified, goddesses, all of you. And these white people just kept asking me which one of my parents was white. So, long story short, I've had a long history with race, and I didn't experience racism until I got to Portland. Denver was like Elia said, I could go all day without seeing white people all day. Not because I was trying, it was just the neighborhood that I lived in. Denver was highly segregated. I don't know how segregated it still is. But when I was growing up, it was very segregated. White people lived over here. The Latinos lived in West Denver or North Denver. White people lived in Cherry Creek and Highland Ranch and some of all those other rich areas in South Denver. So it was very different time, interesting time. I don't want to take any more time if I've been talking too much as it is.
Good. All right. Well, what about you, Shaquae?
So I grew up in Montbello, boo side. But no, I grew up in Montbello, which was a predominantly Black neighborhood. So I was around us. Like, that's what I grew up with. But ironically, though, my stepmother was actually Filipino. So I was used to seeing other races. And then my direct neighbor, she was white. She was one of my favorite people in the world. We grew up in a cul-de-sac. And so everybody else was Black. But then it was her, Jill. Shout out to Jill. She lived right next door. And then my stepmom, who was Filipino. But outside of that, it was us. So I went to Oakland Elementary. I went to MLK in the 6th grade, Martin Luther King Jr. Middle school. And so it was us. Like, I was used to being around Black people. It was the norm. Like, it was the norm. And then on top of that, like, my mom's family, so that was my dad's family that was in Montbello. And then my dad's family was Park Hill. And that's where my great-grandma lived. She lived on Dexter Street. And so, again, when I would go to my great-grandmother's house, like, you know how, like, growing up, you go to your great-grandma's house. And so going to my great-grandma's house, it was us. Like, I was used to seeing that. So I was in between Montbello and Park Hill, just seeing my people. So I didn't really experience, like, other races outside of my stepmom, and she didn't really count to me. Like, she didn't really count. I didn't really experience other races until I went to go live with my mother when I was 12, and I went to Aurora Hills Middle School. And that's when I started to see, like, a little bit of diversity, but even still, that school was majority Black, and all of my friends were Black. So that was in middle school. And then high school, I went to Gateway. Well, okay, y'all, don't judge me for this, but I went to 4 different high schools. I went to Gateway the first semester of my freshman year. got into a fight, whatever. My mom was like, yeah, no, it's time to go. So then I went from Gateway, where it's like kind of mixed up, and I was around like Black people my whole life, to going to Grandview. If you're not familiar with Grandview, Grandview is all the way white. So you want to talk about a culture shock. Like, it was a culture shock. Like, what is happening here? It was so crazy for me. But it was probably about 10 of us Black people there, and we all stuck together. Like, even still to this day, like, we all still keep in touch. So, yeah, so at Grandview, we all stuck together, even though there was a whole bunch of like others around us, like we all stuck together. So it was kind of like they didn't exist a little bit. So that was Grandview. And I was like, Mom, I can't do this. Like, this is too much. Like, this is deep right here. Like, all these others around me, this is too much. And so I was like, please, I promise you, I'll act right. I won't get into any fights. I'll be good. Just please don't make me go to this school. And so she was like, okay, fine. So I went to George. The sophomore year of my high school year. I went to George sophomore year. I begged and pleaded, still didn't have no act grade. So my mom was like, guess what? So then we moved, and I ended up going to Rangeview for my junior and senior year. And so that was kind of mixed too, but then I still stuck to my own people. So that was kind of my life, was I kind of just like, no matter where I was at, I always found my people. Like, that's just, because that's what I grew up like around, my people. So no matter where I'm at, I always just kind of like gravitate to my people. So that's my life has been like.
Nice. Thank you for sharing that. Okay, Whitney, your turn.
I would say, I think I forgot the question, honestly. I've been so deep into what all of you are saying, but I would say growing up, I've experienced a lot of different races and ethnicities. Similar, kind of like you, Shaquae, when my sister and I, when we were younger, we actually, well, at least for me, I think I went to like 6 or 7 different elementary schools. So I got lucky and was able to go to the same high school. But I went to Marama in Oakland, Arkansas Elementary, Ponderosa Elementary. So now we're moving to Aurora, Aurora Academy, Prairie. And then I finally was able to stay at Overland for 4 years. So I actually got bounced around to different schools. And I think that a lot of the schools that I went to, they were either, you know, when I was younger, preschool, kindergarten, we were in Montbello. Both of my parents went to Montbello High School. They grew up in Montbello. Our grandma was in Montbello. So we were always over there. She had a daycare, right? And then, so all the kids were Black. She stayed in the Crossing Apartments. I'm pretty sure you guys might be aware of where that is. But yeah, everyone was Black. We would go over to the schools for the lunch during the summer, you know, had that whole experience. And then once we moved to Aurora, same kind of thing. I think the areas we were living in Aurora, so like Mississippi and Buckley, kind of like, yeah, those areas where Black people really are. And still to this day, I think. But yeah, so definitely had a lot of experience with different cultures and races. I wouldn't say so much like within my family. Like, I have an aunt who is white. My dad's mom was white, but she passed away pretty early, so I didn't get to spend a lot of time with her. But beyond that, yeah, I would say a pretty good mix. Even at Overland, it was a pretty diverse for sure.
Nice. I mean, it sounds like we all have some very different experiences, which is unique, you know, and gives us all different perspectives. So I really like that. But moving to the next question is, how has being the only Black person in the workspace affected you? What about outside of the workspace? And Brie, I'll let you go first.
Yeah, no, I love this question. I would say being the only Black woman in the workplace, and then a Black woman in leadership, has definitely created a sense of, I think at times, imposter syndrome of like, do I really belong here? And I think a lot of friction of me having to like defend or sort of state or be that I do belong here to others, and really showcasing that, as well as like something that I have grown a lot in is leaning into uncomfortable conversations when it comes to things like microaggressions or just observing people's behaviors and how they treat women, Black women in particular, in the workspace. So that definitely has been, I feel like, an experience that, you know, you think like, oh, I shouldn't have to go through this, but unfortunately, it's something that we all do, no matter the level that you're in. And I actually, while I don't enjoy going through it, I do appreciate and respect like the aspects of having uncomfortable conversations with people, and naming when I do see like injustice, whether it be for me or other Black folks in the workplace, or even BIPOC. So that has been exhausting work, but I think as I grow as a professional, it's work that I'm becoming a little bit more accustomed to, and recognizing like when to pick it up and like respond to something, and when to sort of balance out with like, you know what, today that's just not going to be something I'm going to dive into, because I think I've learned if you do that, you can really exhaust yourself of constantly calling out injustices or implicit or explicit bias in the workplace. So, you know, I've really grown in that way. And I think what continues to inspire me is thinking a lot about my niece and young Black girls who are growing up now, and ensuring like, hey, I don't want them to experience this when they're working, you know, like there shouldn't be these lingering thoughts of like, do I belong here? What mark can I make? And I think the impression that I want to build and grow is that we dismantle that for young people and young women in the workplace.
I think that's awesome that you like have gained the confidence to like engage in those hard conversations, because I'm not there yet. Like, so for me, um, when I went to UNC, University of Northern Colorado, that was a culture shock for me, right? Because I was the only Black person in every single class I ever took. I'm coming from schools where I'm used to it being the complete opposite. So for me, it was very uncomfortable. And I don't feel like I ever took the opportunity to like really embrace what that meant. I kind of always tried to like stay in the background, like not really be seen. And that's also translated into me in the workplace and just me as a person in general too. So I think now, like even at work, like I get super uncomfortable. I don't want to say the wrong thing, or I just overthink a lot of things, honestly. And it's because I'm not comfortable, you know. I don't speak up as much as I should in the workplace. I was just having this conversation with my cousin Demiko earlier, and I was telling her like, how do I like deal with these white women better, like to a place where I can effectively communicate with them and I'm not feeling like, because the imposter syndrome is real. Like, you know, like I don't want to say the wrong thing the wrong way. Like I don't articulate myself in the same way that white women do. You know, we have different vocabularies and you don't have to use all these crazy large words to get your point across, right? But sometimes you might just feel like, I don't know, maybe like a little intimidated, like, which is unfortunate because we shouldn't feel that way. You know what I'm saying? But that has been my experience. Like, and previous to the job that I have now, I worked for Denver Public Schools for a number of years, and so I was more so around more people of color, and I felt a lot more comfortable in that role. My supervisor was Black. My director was Black. The schools I worked in were predominantly Black and Hispanic, so it was just different. Whereas now, there's like 3 Black people in my department, so. And we all definitely stick together. Whitney and I work together. Whitney's actually my supervisor, which is nice, you know? It's super dope. But it's different, you know? So for me, I'm trying to work on I guess, pushing myself more out of my comfort zone so that I can grow. Because if I just continue to live in fear of like what these people are going to say or they're judging me, that's my thing. They're always judging me, which they are, but what are they going to do? You know what I'm saying? People are always judging me. So I'm trying to like push myself to have more uncomfortable conversations and just to let my voice be heard more. And it's very hard, but the girls try. Yeah. Go ahead, Dedra.
Yeah, I think my experiences, I think they're different for a couple different reasons. A, my mom grew up in down south in Florida, and my mom passed away when she was in her 70s. And I'm the youngest of three kids. So I have an older mom who grew up when things were segregated, and she went through the process of desegregation and what that meant. And when I asked her about it, like as I got older, they did not want desegregation. If separate was equal, we'd still be separate. And that's what my mom said. She was like, I didn't want to go to school with the white kids. So I got raised by a woman who ended up being very successful, but she taught us how to code switch. And I feel like we all know what that means, but it's definitely acting more white, so to speak, in the white world, how to become successful in a white world. And those were things that you thought about. You changed the way you talked. You changed the way my mom wouldn't let me get dreads because she told me that was not a proper hairstyle, which was the language of the oppressor. So, and I didn't realize how often in like high school or junior high, I let microaggressions slide. Microaggressions were happening so often, I didn't even realize they were microaggressions. But then things would happen that would make me very uncomfortable as a Black person, and I didn't know how to process the feelings. I remember when, I mean, this is how old I am. In like the 90s, it used to just be Black, white, and then African American became a thing. And one of my good friends, who's still my good friends to this day, went and wrote this paper about how African American isn't a thing. He was a white guy. And it upset me because it was so bigoted, but he just couldn't understand why it was so bigoted. And we talk about it now. And he was like, I was so dumb and arrogant. And I was like, you were, and you didn't know any better. And I just had a plethora of those experiences throughout life. So when I got my job in human resources, I would get a lot of feedback that I didn't know was code for you're just being too Black. So the feedback was I wasn't perceived as professional. The feedback was, hey, we have visitors coming, make sure you wear your hair straight just because it looks more professional. Hey, your voice carries, make sure you speak a little softer. These are all just you're being too Black in the workplace. And I was in human resources. And there would be a lot of focus on the clothes I was wearing, and almost like my clothes weren't good enough. I was making $30,000 in a no person job. My clothes weren't good enough. I was also heavyweight. I was big, so our clothes are more expensive. I have like 6 good outfits. Anyway, as I progressed, it started to feel wrong code switching. And I had the experience of I worked in one call center. It was in rural Virginia. And then I went and worked at a call center in Columbus, Ohio, which is diverse. And the call center was 60% Black. And it had a bunch of different races. And I worked there for on and off for about 5 weeks. And when I went back to Virginia, I was sad, and I couldn't explain why I was sad. At the time, I was married to a white woman, hanging out with her family, away from my family. I went to a Black church, but I realized I was sad because I wasn't able to be myself in the workplace that I was in Virginia. But when I was in Columbus, I was. And they loved me, and it was well received. And that was some of the best work I did. So in about a year and a half, I got the opportunity to go to that call center and actually work in there. And I killed it. I destroyed it. I was in the best. I exceeded expectations. I had a boss who was a white woman that told people to leave me alone. I said, stop telling her to do her job differently. Just let her do what she does. And they left me alone, and I killed it. I kept getting promoted. I ended up moving out to our corporate area for that job. And they said they wanted me to be who I was, but they didn't. And I also realized I had enough experience that I didn't have to do the job how they wanted me to do it. I could do what I like to do in the way I could do it, and somebody's going to pay me to do that. And so I ended up resigning from a job. I went to another job, made less money, but I got to work for the first time a Black boss. Who was again authentically herself. But this is funny. When she was being authentically herself, it made me uncomfortable sometimes because I was like, in my head, I still was having that divide of, is she acting too Black? Is she doing that? And I was like, oh, girl, no, they're going to yell at you. She was the CHRO. Nobody's yelling at her. She's the top dog. She's not getting yelled at. She can do whatever she wants, basically. But it made me uncomfortable because I was still in that you have to do a little something to be different. And I will say for me, when I was at that job previously, when Black employees came in and they saw how much white people enjoyed me, it was off-putting to them. Because most of the time, if white people love you, you are Uncle Tommen. And I don't feel like I was, but I feel like the perception was I absolutely was. And truthfully, I feel like that fear of being seen as not that Black has plagued me all my life. And even with the dating of white women versus the dating of Black women, and I'm at the place where I've dated both. Even in my last relationship, which was with a Black woman, it was a dynamic that I had to work on, and it was a lot of my own fears, insecurities, and different things. And I will say joining the leadership program that we all met at ULF has helped me see the spectrum of what being Black is and make me realize that I fit right in it. I'm as Black as anyone else. And it doesn't matter, which has also helped me adjust how I show up at work. And also from the perspective of what I do for a living, I love calling people out when they don't know they're racist and I tell them they are. That's probably one of my favorite things to do in the job. Like how many times I've stopped people from using the word aggressive in a corrective document for a Black female when they've had white men cuss them out and they just don't write them up. How many times I've asked them to describe what aggressive behavior is and they can't. Oh, that's my bread and butter. But I'm sorry, I've been babbling. Sorry.
You're good. No, thanks for sharing that. That's some good stuff. Thanks for sharing your truth, girl. Demiko, what about you? Go ahead. I'll repeat the question too, just in case y'all forgot. So it's like the question was, how has being the only Black person in the workplace and outside of the workplace affected you?
I could relate to a lot of what Dedra was saying. I think I'm saying her name correctly. I hope so. And I hope I'm using the correct pronouns. I will say I have a love-hate relationship with being the only Black woman in all of the spaces that I was in Oregon. In Florida, I get to see other people like me. Like I think my current team, I think we're the whole entire team are Black women. Yeah. Anyhow, and I'm on a strategic leadership team that advises leaders from all across the organization. And so I do a lot of this work, but I've always done it. My thesis in undergrad was on diversity. Is it really just a buzzword? And I was like 22 then. I'm 50 now. Still a buzzword. So I guess what I'm saying is that there's a lot of work to do. And as long as we're part of this human race, we're going to keep doing it. Imposter syndrome, I related to that. What Bree said, it sneaks in on you. You wake up one morning, you're having a great day. You walk in, you go into a meeting and it's all white people. And you maybe even though you were expecting that, you knew that was going to happen that day. You have a big presentation. It still somehow creeps in on you and slaps you across the face when you least expect it. And I've had to constantly remind myself when it happens, it's time to turn on some music and dance, bitch. Because the reality of the situation is we're the standard. We're not following anyone else's pattern. They're following ours. That's why I'm there, to help them see the light and to help them get their minds right. But being in Portland is when I did my growing up, right? I was there from 18 to like 40 something. And I learned a lot about how white people work. It was like being in Rome, honestly. Like, if you go to Rome, you're going to learn the culture, you're going to learn the food, the music. You might eat some wonderful food. You might eat some food you don't have the palate for, so it's going to taste a little strange for you. That was what it was like growing up, building my career as the only Black person everywhere I went. And I thought, well, I can't be alone in this. So I sent my daughter to all private schools where she got to be the representative too. So it was just challenging, but it was also an education. I cut my teeth there because I can handle all of these people where I'm at currently easily and in my sleep. But had I not had that education coming from an all-Black environment, as a lot of us on this call described, and thrust into an all-white environment, I literally went from day to night to day. I mean, literally. And being scared to come out of my house because there were all these white people when I wasn't used to them. And the only thing I knew about was Ted Bundy and all the serial killings. I remember calling the police when I would see white people start gentrifying my neighborhood in Portland, because they had a little area where the Black people were, where they kept us. Anyhow, when I would see a white man running down the street with a beard, I would call the police to them till they knew my name. So at work, some of that stuff was still there because I was learning how to adjust to this white environment and all the stuff Dedra said. I like what my girlfriend told me today. Her daughter told her. She said, they always want to hire Black people until we show up Black. Mm-hmm. I'm going to say that again. They always want to hire us until we show up Black. And our Cardi B bouncing. They don't want to see all that. They want us to come in and act like June Cleaver and serve up their whatever their orders are. No, nigga, no. I'm not doing that shit no more. I've masked for 20 something years. The mask comes off now, bitch. This is what you get. Okay? You don't like it? I know how to get another job, bitch. And by the way, you fire me. That's one less on the roster. They're gonna start watching. So that's what it's been like growing up Black in a white area or a white work environment. And I'm going to always be in that because of the nature of my level of education, expertise, skill set, knowledge, abilities, training. I'm not trying to be egoic here, but there's just a lot, right? So I'm in demand. They need me. I don't need them their asses.
Go ahead, Shaquae.
Okay, so first of all, Demiko, you just gave us a word. Okay, like I'm over here cracking up, like, yes, like come all the way through, because that's it right there. Like, I feel like I don't even need to talk right now because, like, you said it all. Like, you just gave it to a straight no chaser. Like, wait a minute, like you came all the way through. But like, so for me personally, I've never been the only Black person in a workspace. Now, I have been in spaces where there's only been a few of us. But like I told y'all before, I always find my people. Like I always gravitate to my people. Like I'm going to find us. If there's only two of us, guess what? It's us. I've never been the only Black person. But I can say like in my last situation, much like Demiko, I had a friend, I'm not going to say her name because she still works for the corporation, but she was like super duper pro-Black and we stuck together. And they didn't like that. They didn't like that. And so, Aaliyah, I know that you were saying that sometimes you find it hard to like, what do I say? What do I do? What do I do? Girl, walk in your power. That's what you do. Don't worry about like, what am I supposed to say? How am I supposed to act? Be you. Like, be you and walk in that power, because they see that power and they're intimidated by it. They don't like it, but it's okay. Be you. That's what you're, like Demiko said, we're the representative. We're there to show them the light. And they might not like it, but it's cool though, because we're always going to show up as us. And that's what you have to do. Don't conform to their ways. Be you. Just walk how you're supposed to be. Show up as you. Show up as Aaliyah. That's all you have to do. Don't worry about what they, what they think, what they're going to say, how they're going to feel, how it's going to affect them people. That's how I feel. Like, do you, you know what I mean? Like, show up. And you know what I mean? Like, that's what it is. And the thing about it is, like, they see that power. And it's like a part of them like wants that power, like they want it, like they feed off of that energy, they feed off of that power, and they really, really want it. But at the same time, like they're super duper intimidated by it. So sometimes you got to take the good with the bad. Some of them are going to like gravitate to you because of your power, and some of them are going to try to push you out because of your power. But regardless of what it is, still walk in that power and just know that regardless of what happens, you're going to be good, and you showed up authentically as being yourself, and that's all you can do. That's it. So just show up being you. Like I see Dedra over there, like, yes, but that's it. Show up authentically being you. And that's it. So.
All right, nigga, coming through, dropping gems. Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you. Go ahead, Whitney.
Dang, this was all beautiful, guys. I mean, you guys all really said it. I think the only thing that I can say from my perspective is being in leadership now as a Black person has definitely, I think I tell people this all the time, like, I hope no one from our job sees this, but the way I view white people is so different than what it was 3 months ago. I mean, I've always kind of been very skeptical. You all know I'm a little skeptical of folks sometimes, but like now that I have to manage white people, I am just like, wow. Like I'm just, yeah, we'll have to do like a follow-up to see like, where I'm at in a couple months. But at this point, it's not good.
Your biggest challenge with managing them as a Black
person? I would say at first I thought I was going to have like imposter syndrome, right? But then I think I say it to you all the time. Like, I'll be like, oh, fuck them hoes. Like, all the time. Like, I just constantly remind myself, like, fuck those people. I don't care. I'm going to just be me, say what I got to say, and get through it. But the most challenging part that I've been facing has just been, they're not authentic. Like, they don't know how to be real with you, direct with you. It's just like, they secretly want to see you fail. They pretend to trust you, but they don't really, and it's just that feeling of like, they feel like they're just always being sneaky, like when you're just in this situation, it just doesn't feel good, and yeah, going back to our whole department, I think 15% of us, I think maybe 4 out of 26 of us are people of color. 3 of us are Black. 1 other person is Hispanic. So it is super hard. And I think being the only Black person in leadership on the team makes it even more challenging because you don't really have like a safe space to like vent about, what you're feeling and like, to just be yourself in those type of environments because it's just so white. But yeah.
Thanks for sharing that, okay. This is good. Good stuff. All right. So my next question is, in terms of dating, or we got a couple married people on here, so even friendships, from an ethnic standpoint, who are you more likely to create friendships with? Go ahead, Brianna.
Well, dating is interesting in Colorado because there's really not, I prefer to date Black men, but there's really not a lot of options here in Colorado, I've observed. However, I'm also open, like that is my preference, but I don't want to like pigeonhole myself. So I am open to other ethnicities and have dated outside of my race in the past. In terms of like friendships, I have a good mix of friends, I would say. Primarily, Black women are my friends, but I do have a mix of folks who identify as mixed race. Like I have a Filipino and white friend. I have a Pakistani friend. So yeah, I have a variety. I'm open to a variety of different cultures and people.
Nice. I like that. For me, yeah, you're not gonna ever just see me kicking it with a white person like that. I had one white homegirl in college. And she was cool. She was from North Carolina, very cultured. Like I loved her so much. R.I.P. Emily. She passed away a couple of years ago, got into a car accident. But I don't know, she just like got it. I didn't have to explain like small things to her. She was very cultured. Like she was just cool as hell. Like that was my nigga. And then I have a mentor who is a white male, and he actually like introduced me to the whole field of social work. I met him when I used to work at Wells Fargo at the bank. And he was also is very cultured, very pro-Black. Like he just gets a lot of like the Black experience, you know. So I think we were like able to connect on like a deeper level like that. But I'm definitely more likely to have friends that are Black. All of my friends are Black. People I kick it with on a daily basis. Not to say that I'm not open to other friendships, but like Shaquae said, I always find my people. That's who I'm comfortable with. As far as dating, I'm not taking no pink meat. That's just me. But you know, everybody got their preference out there. I don't know if I would date a Latino. You know, I love Black men. We'll just leave it at that. Okay. What about you, Dedra?
You crack me up. I am what we call the opposite. No, if you all you need to do is look at my Facebook and my LinkedIn. The majority of my relationships are with white people, and I would say it's due to proximity. I grew up with the white people. I think I've heard a couple of you say I always find my people, and when I think about that, the first people I identify with or are in the past has been the gays, the nerds, and then Black people. Like it wasn't, that's the order like that I saw it in my head versus if I think of what people am I looking for, it wouldn't be by race initially. But it is more so now as I gotten older. And just like the political scope of America has just made me feel safer around Black people than I do white people. I don't trust them as much as I used to. From a dating standpoint, definitely I've dated the spectrum. And that's male, female too. I mean, male, female, Black, white, Asian. I've had the rainbow. I think I'm at the point where I don't have a preference. I think there are physical attributes that lead me to lean towards different things. I like my women thick. So I don't know what to say about that. You know, even my ex-wife who was white was thicker. So, I mean, I like thick. So whoever I'm seeing that's thick, I'm gonna look at you a lot. So Black, white, whatever. If you got some assets, I'm gonna stare at them. And I'm still open to date whoever at this point. If intellectually we can combine on a topic, that's cool. I think it's interesting to watch like my friend basis of Colorado, which is not a Black area. Primarily in Colorado, I hang out with Black people like 24/7. My friends have been messaging me on Facebook like, who are all these women? All these sisters you with nowadays? They are confused. So so there's that. Thank you, ladies, is what I'm saying.
I love that. You guys are so open. Like you encourage me to be better. I need to expand my horizon because, yeah, I just do. I'm gonna try. Go ahead, Demiko.
So that answers that question. There's my Black ass husband. I have always had we all have like things that we like, right? And I am an Idris Elba, Tyrese type of, like, I like healthy chocolate. You know what I'm saying? Like, I don't like I'm a fan of Motherland chocolate. But if I wasn't married, I would actually be very open. Because I'm more of a sapiosexual than anything. It's intellectual acuity for me. If you can't make love to my mind, you'll never see the inside of me.
So do you also date a woman? Or?
That's not my thing, but I can appreciate it. Yeah. Don't get me wrong. Like, I get it. You know, I had a wild night in my youth, but I'm strictly dickly, but I don't knock anyone who isn't. So I appreciate it. As far as friendships go, I run the spectrum because the world is my playground, right? This is my journey, and as a part of who I am as a species, as a human. It's important that I understand and relate to other humans across the globe and across the Black diaspora, right? I feel it's important for me to know my Latino brothers and sisters, my London brothers and sisters, the gamut. The world is my oyster. I'm a goddess. So I want to get to know other people in the same divine vein, right? Like, I just want to get to know you. I have friends. I've gone to gone potty and wore sari and danced and got potty. I've done stuff with people from Vietnam. I mean, I'm one of those people I just never met a stranger. I just, doesn't matter. I'm trying to learn certain sign language and Spanish too. Like, I'm trying to be networking across the globe because where I work, we're a global company. So I have to be able to relate to people from all over the world. And because I'm in diversity and inclusion, right, I'd be in the wrong business if that wasn't who I am. I'm by nature inclusive. I don't judge anybody. I rather be an audience in your journey. Let me walk with you down your journey, whether that's discovering your gender identity, whether that's discovering a culture you never knew you were a part of. Hell, maybe you just decide you want to be a dog. Let's explore why you want to be a dog.
You're
I'm not so serious.
Nice though. I love this support.
I'm here to support you. I got you.
All right. I feel that. Well, thank you for sharing that.
You're welcome.
Go ahead, Shaquae.
Demiko with the goddess again. You be coming through. You come all the way through. Oh, you're on. You need to mute because now we have the echo. There we go. All right. All right. So for me, like, as far as dating goes, I love me a black man. Like, I do. Like, I love me a black man. I feel like no other race can understand me or even just like penetrate my soul the way that a black man can. And like Demiko had mentioned, like, just the intellectual, like, I'm a sapiosexual too, but I feel like intellectually, like, only like a black man could really, really, really like get me. Like, I'm talking about like the depths of my soul and who I am. Like, it's a beautiful dance between a black woman and a black man. I'm just telling you, it's whoo, honey, let me tell y'all, it's a beautiful dance. It's a beautiful dance. We ain't gonna go there right now, but I'm gonna just tell you, it's a beautiful dance between a black man and a black woman. It's a thing. It's a thing. It's beautiful. So anyway, so yes, I love it. I deal with the black man. I mean, it's cool. Like, we can be friends and everything else, but as far as like other stuff, like, I need me a black man. Okay, that's that. Let me just go there. As far as friends go, my friends is black too. I ain't gonna lie. My friends is black. Like, I don't really have too many others. Like, I'm gonna keep it all the way 1,000 with y'all. My friends are black. Now, I'm not open to like being cordial, being cool. Like, I'm not, you know what I'm saying? I can be cordial, I can be cool, I can get to know other people, all that kind of stuff. But like my inner circle, my people is my people. Like my inner circle is a whole bunch of beautiful black women, period, point blank. It's a whole bunch of us. And I mean, a couple of brothers too, because I have black male friends too. But my inner circle are my people. That's just it. But I'm cool with other people. Like I'll get to, you know what I mean? Like I'm not like, oh, I can't talk to you. I don't want to get to know you, things like that. I'm cool with that. But my people are my people. And that's it. I said that from the beginning. I find my people. That's just who I am.
I feel you, 100. I feel you. All right. What about you, Whitney?
Yeah, I never dated outside of my race. Not by, I think it's just how it is. I don't know. Like, I've never like denied anybody if they were not in my race. It just didn't happen. It wasn't in my cards. That's not what was laid out for me, was somebody who was not black. But yeah, my husband is black. His dad is actually Nigerian, and his mom's a black woman. So yeah, I mean, all my friends are black. I have one white friend, and she's awesome. I met her like working at DPS, and I don't know. It just kind of goes back to what I'm saying. I think since like 2019, like, you know, the way things were changing and like all the violence and police brutality and all the things that were going on, like really kind of shifted the way I seen people. And then now even more so being a black person in leadership with a whole bunch of white people, it's just like, yeah, I say all that to say me and her rarely talk now. Not that I'm intentionally ignoring her or anything.
I wasn't expecting you to say that.
I don't have a connection right now. Like I probably should see a therapist about how I feel about people, but it's okay. Yeah, that's all I got, Aaliyah.
Well, thank you for sharing that.
Y'all got to give these white people a chance. Y'all got to give them a small smidge of a chance out there.
I know.
Like, and listen, they're gonna mess it up. They're gonna mess it up, but it does not mean they're awful people. Because I have had my friends mess it up, but we got to give them a small chance.
You're right.
Dedra, tell them to give us a chance. How about that?
Right.
That's what I'm saying. Like, I think it's double-sided. It's funny because how I feel about people in general, I give everyone the benefit of the doubt, right? Like, black or white, whatever. Maybe you didn't know how stupid you were. And then once I discovered you do know and you don't care, cool, F you then, right? But I feel like it's been such a long history of BS with white people. We're at the point where we don't want to give you chances anymore. Fuck that. You know what I mean? So I feel that too. But give us a few. I'm gonna start bringing my white friends slowly, not in big groups of black people. Listen, look at Demiko. She said, don't do it. Okay, I'm gonna go back on mute.
Thank you. Stay on mute with that.
We got to do better. Me, Whitney, and Shaquae. We will do better. Okay, this is my last question to wrap things up. What kind words or advice would you all have for those who may have recently moved and are struggling to find like that sense of community in a predominantly white state? I'll go first. My first suggestion would be find you a black native so they could tell you where the niggas is at. Then, number two, I would say join like a black professional organization, something similar to like ULF we're in. There's a lot of different things out there. But I think that's a great way to get connected with other black people, other black professionals too. But you got to link up with a native. I think that's the best way to just, get in there like, because, they could introduce you to their family and, you just go from there. But those are my suggestions. What about you, Bree?
Yeah, I would definitely say just believe in yourself first and foremost. Like, you're a human being. You don't have to walk around, constantly looking over your shoulder, overthinking things. And I think if so, then that's completely normal. So I definitely would say, like, validating that experience of being in a predominantly white state, like, you're going to experience some of the self-doubt, or like, wow, there's just so many white people. I've lived here for most of my life and I still say that. So I think just honoring exactly where you're at, and getting out and meeting other people, as well as like checking out like things on Instagram for Black centered spaces is certainly something that I would recommend. I'm a native of Colorado, so if you ever want to get in touch, I'm not sure how you can do that, but you can comment on Instagram maybe, and Elia can connect me. So, but yeah, overall, just believe in yourself and have fun. And yeah, that's all I got.
All right, thank you, girl. Dedra, I'm curious to hear your response to this, because I feel like this relates to you.
Yeah, I think as a non-native, it's funny. It's just looking for Black focused things and showing up at Black focused things. Like one of our friends who used to live in Denver, they now moved to Vegas. We're doing like rapping at pop-ups. So I would go to these pop-ups, and then you get business cards from other Black people. Hey, there's another pop-up happening. And so getting connected. There's a Facebook group called Black in Denver. I joined it. I was like, oh, and they have cookouts where I've made friends there. Connecting to a native, I think, is key. When I joined ULF, my primary goal was to get involved in the Black community. And I did. And it's interesting to figure out the different aspects of the Black community I've got to meet with. There's been business professionals. There's people that are like, oh, I used to work where you work. And then there are just people that I see turn it up and just slowly getting invited to Black spaces and then showing up at them. And then figuring out, connecting with other people to find more Black places. And what I work at Crocs now, and Crocs is based out of Boston and Denver, two of the whitest places ever. And we have a lot of people that are moving here from Atlanta, Houston, primarily Black areas. And if I see them in the office, I literally sit them down, introduce myself, and I start listing off the different things to get connected to the Black community here. And they show up at Vibes at the Park, and they've appreciated it. I told them about Make a Chess Move, and they're like, hey, I'm getting my son enrolled in that too. So, for me, it's taking the opportunity when I see a Black face to introduce myself and try to connect on that level, which is something I probably wouldn't have done 5 years ago. So
nice. That's great too. What about you, Demiko? I'm sure you have some great tips coming from Portland, Oregon.
Oh, we'll see. I would say everything that's already been echoed. And then, but this is going to sound a little wild, but go to the Black hair store. Go to the Black hair store and go to like places that there's first off, we already know not all the white people know what the Black hair stores are. They don't go in there, so you got a good chance if you go in there to meet some Black folks and ask questions, hey, if you're into church like that, where can I join a church? Or, if you're from the LGBTQIA, I'm trying to get used to adding that IA at the end. If you ask where PFLAG is, what's the nearest local PFLAG chapter? What are some other organizations in the area that I can participate in, possibly volunteer at? That's another thing you do in the community. For example, I moved to Jacksonville and I volunteer for an organization called 904, where we have uncomfortable conversations about race with white people and try to educate them on how to see beyond the veil of what we know as an institutional social construct of race and whiteness specifically. But that was the kind of, I'm just kind of hardcore that way, but maybe you just want to join a little book club or, whatever you're into, try to find the Black version of whatever you're into is what I would say. I would also say, though, spend time at your local libraries and in discovering the community that you're in. Learn the landscape. Who are your politicians? Who are your local representatives? How many of them are Black? Do your research, because if you start with research, you will find what you need to find. But specifically join an ERG wherever you are. So if your company has some sort of business resource group, or what we call them are, what do we call ours? Networks, what do they call them? Affinity networks. Figure out what affinity networks is that you have at your current role. And then if all else fails, go to your EAP. They have different resources that can help direct you in the new community that you've just embarked upon. And that's if you're a professional. Now, if you're a student, you want to work within the whatever organizations they have within the student. If you can find a Greek organization, look at joining a Greek organization, a Black Greek, aka Delta, those sorts of things.
Nice. Great tips again. Okay, what you got first, Shaquae?
Mm-hmm. Well, my answer is very, very, very simple. Your vibe will attract your tribe. That's it. The very essence of who you are and what you want is going to attract whatever it is that you want. You're going to attract it. Simply put. So if you want to be around more of us, that's what you really, truly want, you're going to attract that. So that's it. Very simple. I don't have any other advice. Be you and live unauthentically being Black. I didn't mean to say unauthentically. I meant to say authentically, unapologetically. I said that incorrectly. Had to correct that.
I would say the same thing that you were saying, Shaquae, and everyone else. Just be authentic and, be you. Figure out ways to integrate with others and, just give it a try, like Dedra was saying, and you all give it a try. We'll try harder. But yeah.
Alrighty, well, this was a good conversation, everyone. I enjoyed it. Good talks. I appreciate everyone's perspective. Thanks for taking the time to do this, you all. And I hope all of our viewers enjoyed it too. So thanks you guys for joining in on another conversation of the Mommyana Podcast. Make sure you follow me on Instagram at Mommyana Podcast. You can also find me on Facebook, Spotify. I'm on everything pretty much now, thanks to my bro. And shout out to him. You can also find him at D Weatherly Beats on Instagram. He does all the editing for my podcast, came up with the fire beat. So check him out too if you're in need of someone to edit your podcast or you're trying to rap, whatever you got going on, reach out to bro. But thanks again, ladies, for joining. And I hope everyone has a great night. Bye.
D Weatherly gon' kill it.